Thank you, Anand, for this opportunity. A little bit about myself. My name is Gautam Saskar. I'm a Journey to Salesforce mentor, where we go in different colleges and help uh, students to learn Salesforce and get started into the Salesforce ecosystem. I'm also a Trailhead mentor and 5x certified Salesforce certified professional. I'm currently working as a Salesforce developer at UST. So this is my LinkedIn profile. Maybe we can connect over LinkedIn and go together. So in this session, what we are gonna cover is, in the previous sessions we have covered most of the Apex stuffs like triggers and everything, right? So the synchronous part of the Apex we have covered. Now, in today's session, we will be covering around the synchronous part of the Apex and how it is useful in Salesforce platform with large volume data and things. So, what are some advantages and why we need asynchronous Apex? That's what on high level we are going to see, and then what are its types, and in detail we'll go through each one of them, and then we will be covering all five types of this asynchronous Apex, and at the end we will share some of the best practices and limitations we have with these things, and at the end we will be having a Q&A and discussion. Okay, so I can see like we don't have much people in the call, so I would expect like this session we can make it as a interactive session. I could see around like 15 people in the call. So let's try to make this session as much interactive as possible so that you will be getting most out of it. Okay, so let's start with the first thing, which is an asynchronous Apex. So before jumping into the asynchronous Apex, let's summarize what we have learned till now. So what we have learned till now is we have a platform called Salesforce, and on top of that we have some automation tools like flows and triggers, right? So what happens is in the business context, most of the times like we have some complex processes. If something happens, then we have to perform some things, so that's why we are using these automation tools, right? Like flows and trigger. So till now we have learned triggers. So in triggers, what happens is we have some context variables, right? So I'll straight away jump into the dev console and we'll summarize it. So we have this triggers, right? So we create a quick trigger. So we have like this trigger. So what happens is, according to our business processes, if something happens in a Salesforce platform, like if any record inserts, if any record updates, if any records deletes, any record is being undelayed, on top of that we want to perform some actions. Let's say, for example, we have a contact which gets updated, or we have an account which gets updated. On top of that, after that update is happened, we need to populate that data on the related objects, on the related records. So let's say we have account which is updated. On account, we are updating the billing address. As soon as the billing address gets updated, we updating related contacts associated with that account. So this is one of the business scenario. Most of the simple business scenarios we will take. So in this scenario, what we are using Apex triggers. So as it's a synchronous, what happens is we have this context variables which we learned in the previous session. Like we have around like before insert, before delete, before update, after and delete, like that, right? So on that, say we have this before insert and after update. Okay, let's say for now we'll take this. Now as soon as if a billing city on the account is updated, what we will do, we will update the all related contacts associated with that account ID, and on contacts we will populate whatever is the current account billing city, which we will populate on the related contacts. Okay, so what we will do, first we'll check if it is after update. So on after delete, what we will do, we will loop through the all the accounts and in this we will check if the account billing city is changed or not. So account billing city is not equal to old billing city. So simple we saw in the session, right? So if this billing city is changed, then what we have to do, we have to update the related contacts. So what we will do, we'll query the contact list and we'll make it generic first. Instead of putting the query in the loop, we'll query all the contacts outside of loop and then we will reference it inside. Okay, now here let's make this as map of ID, but for now we'll just keep it as query and then we can optimize the code and we'll put it outside the loop. So for now just let's assume we have simple things. So here we will pass the account ID as a filter. Account ID is equal to acc.id. So now we have list of contacts, and now what we will do, we will loop through all contacts which we just queried. And then inside that we will populate con dot billing city is equal to acc dot billing city. So we'll assign this, and now we need to update it, this contact. So we need to create a list of variable. So we'll create this variable. And after you loop this, what we will do, we will add this list into the contacts to update, and after our for loop we will do update this list. Okay. Mailing city. Yeah, the API name is mailing set. So okay, simple thing. When an account is updated, and on account, if there is billing city changed, then whatever related contacts we have on that, we need to populate this same billing city on the main city field, and we need to update all the contacts. So this was synchronous process where we need to update the things. But now let's say we have some process where as soon as this billing city on the account is updated, then we need to send this account data to a third party system. Let's say for example, we need to send this to ServiceNow, which is our another vendor, and we need to send this updated data to that system. So while performing these operations, if we have multiple such a things, our performance might get degrade. So in that case, we use asynchronous aspects. Also, in some of the cases, like let's say I'm updating this contacts, but sending these details to the third party is not as important as we are completing the transaction. So what happens is, when you complete a transaction, it takes time, right? So the sending of the data to third party system, that process might take some time. So in this case, what we do is, to optimize the performance of the system, we put that sending the details to third party system, that logic we keep it in a asynchronous part, so that whenever system is free, it will execute that method and it will send that data to third party system. And the internal processes, whatever we have, like update acts, which are internal things, right? So that will get as fast as possible. So to optimize the performance, we use that. Also, if like we are not time sensitive of when send that data, it's okay if we get some delay in the sending of that data. So in that case, we can keep that process in a synchronous thing, and we can execute our other faster. So now with this example, what we have to do, we have to send this data to the third party system. So to do that, we need asynchronous thing to optimize the performance. So that's where we comes with this asynchronous part. Why we need asynchronous. And what is asynchronous? Asynchronous is basically it runs in parallel in context of the triggers which we are running. So when we call some asynchronous process from our triggers, it will run in parallel. Our triggers will not wait until that process is completely executed. Our processes, other processes will get executed completely, and then after our system is free, then only the asynchronous processes will get executed. So it improves the performance as well. Okay, so till now, any doubts? Okay, I'll take it as no. And so we'll go to the what are types of asynchronous apex. So there are different types of asynchronous apex. Based on what is our requirement, we will go with that approach. So there are around 5 types of asynchronous processes we have, which we can utilize it. The first thing is, so which is the first and the easiest way to run our code asynchronously in parallel. So in this example, now we took the, if the billing city is changed, we need to send this data to the third party system. So what we can do is we can create so we will create one class called account trigger handler, and in this class we will create one method. So that asynchronous part, the future method I am talking, I will be creating one method which is asynchronous method for future. So what I will do, I will write a method void send data to AWS. So this is it. Now this method will take the list of IDs. Let's say I'm passing the account IDs to this method. Will do this method will take the account IDs and it will query the latest account data and it will pass that to the third party system. So that's what this method will do. So sending to the third party system will not do because we don't have an active connection on this one. So simply we can do is like query the data. So what we will do, list of accounts to send, and then we will query the select ID comma billings from account where IDN, and in this filter we'll pass this list account IDs. And once we query this, we'll prepare something called payload. Prepare payload and send. So this part we'll skip because we don't have a connection. Okay. So this method, normal method. So if I call this method from this handle, so after updating of contact that I just need to call this as soon as the account gets updated. I need to send this and in this will pass map.keyset. So keyset is something which is a list of IDs of all the accounts which are passed in this account trigger. Okay, so now this is synchronous way to call the apex. Now I was talking about future method. So simple is, if I put @future on this method will act as a future method in asynchronous way. So whenever my trigger is executing, it will come to this. It will check if any of the contacts are matching. I updated the account. It will check if it has update context. So we have before update and after update. It will come inside this logic. It will check this if condition is after is update is there. So in after update context, it will come inside this if. It will go to this class. It will call this method. Whatever key set we are passing to this method will take it, and this method will be scheduled. So it will not wait until the entire method is executed, and directly it will just schedule and it will come back and it will execute this further part. But if I don't put her, it will, from this line, it will go to this account trigger handler. It will go to this method. It will complete, it will run all these parts first, and then it will go back to this line, and then it will run the next line. So asynchronous is something, it will run in parallel. If we put this @future, this method will run in parallel of this account trigger. So we are just invoking this process from here. It will run along with whatever this is executing. So the process will run more faster and it will complete the operations early as possible. Okay, so this was one of the type in the asynchronous apex, which was future method. So now the issue with using just future is, okay, let me just quickly see what this is. Oh, we are not using trigger. Trigger dot is context variable. Okay, yeah. So we'll pass this preset. Now we saw this future method, but what is the issue with this future method is we cannot call another process from this future. So let's say I have this one future method which is send AWS, but let's say I have a method public Oracle. And it is also doing the same thing. It is preparing the payload and sending the data to Oracle database. This is also future method. Okay, now the thing is, if I have to call this method after this data is sent to AWS. So normally what I will do, after this method execution is completed, we send this data to AWS. Now we will call this method from here and we will pass this account side A to this one. Correct, right? Because first we want to send this data to AWS, and after that the data needs to be sent to Oracle. But we have a limitation that from asynchronous process, we can't call another asynchronous process. So we can't chain jobs like this using future method. So this is a limitation we have this with future. Though it solves our problem of parallel processing, so account triggers will execute in a synchronous way, but if we call future methods, it will run in a different context, and it will not wait until this method is being executed. But if we have to chain the multiple jobs which should run in a synchronous way, that we can't use future methods inside future. So that is a limitation. So to solve this limitation, Salesforce comes with another feature which is called as queuable method. So what is queuable? Queuable is something is very similar to the future. We can use the same thing, future same method, but it will run in a queuable context, and we will be able to schedule the method once the first is executed. So the chaining of this job is possible when we use the queuable things. So that queuable solves the issue of calling the asynchronous methods from the asynchronous. So what we will do, we will go ahead and we'll see the example of queuable, how we will implement the queuable things. So we will create a class called send data to AWS, and in this class, if we have to use queuable, we need to implement the queuable context. So when we implement this queuable context, this class works as a queuable class. Okay, now this queuable class has its specific methods. One of them is execute method, and this method takes parameter as queuable context. So this is a queuable context which is a parameter for this execute method. Okay, so simple thing, it will use this queuable queuable. Okay, so this is the syntax for queuable method. Now what happens is we need to use this queuable thing in the same example. Let's say we have this send data to AWS, and after that we have this send data to Oracle thing. So what we have created, we have created this queuable method for send data to AWS. We'll copy this same thing in the execute method. So this account IDs we need to pass from the context, right? So what we will do, we will create an method for this one, which will be this, which is a constructor which which will take parameter as set of IDs and will give name as account IDs or SSC IDs. We'll store this values in account ID. And we will create one public variable. So that this variable can be accessible here. And whenever we call this class, while calling, we will pass the account IDs and we'll take this account IDs, we'll set this in this variable, and this variable we will use it in our execute method to query only that many accounts which we need to send it to the third party system. Okay, so yeah, implements queuable, sounds good. So this is the send data to Oracle. So this method we will remove. It's because we will directly sending this to the AWS from here. Okay, now one class is ready, which is queuable for sending data to AWS. Similar way, we'll create another class send data to AWS. Sorry, Oracle. In this, we'll do same thing. Yes. Here. And we'll copy this and we'll just change the name. So same way we will send the account IDs, and in this constructor we will take the account IDs, we'll set it in this account IDs list, and in execute method we will pass that as a parameter for SQL query, and we will only retrieve the account IDs which we passed, and then we will prepare payload and send this data to Oracle. So these are two separate asynchronous methods which we will be calling from our apex trigger. So now we saw this is our future method, but this you will get error as you can't do future method future. So to solve this issue, what we have come up with is queuable. So now instead of calling this method from here, what we will do, we will enqueue the queuable class. So what we will do, an instance of this class here is equal send data is equal to new, and while creating this instance we will pass the same thing, which is the key set ID to this here, and we will schedule this job, which is scheduling is enqueuing this job. Okay, so for enqueue the job we have something called system class. In that system we have a method enqueue job, which takes the parameter as instance of this class we created. Okay, and it's enqueues this job. So same way we directly call class dot method, In another way, via creating the instance, we are just enqueuing this job. So this is a type of asynchronous process which is queuable. With future, we saw we have an issue that we can't call future method from future. To solve that issue, we have another approach, another asynchronous process called queuable, which solves that we can chain the multiple jobs after execution one another. So if one is executed, then only we need to call the second one. In this case of dependencies, we can chain the different jobs. So now we have scheduled or enqueued this job. Now once this job is completed, we want to queue this second one. So same thing we can do after executing this job. Once this is finished, once this is finished, what we will do? We will create instance of this class and we will call it from here. And in this, we'll pass this account IDs we have got as a parameter. We created this instance same way. Enqueue job, we will pass this as a parameter and we'll enqueue this job. Okay, sounds good. So till now we saw two types of asynchronous processes and what are its advantages, what triggers can do. Any questions with whatever we have done? Anyone, if anyone have any questions now, any doubts in this, whatever I have, if anything you didn't understood, something like that? All good? Okay.
Yeah, team, can you respond, right? So that it will be. Okay, you can proceed.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. So, yeah, yes, please go ahead. Yes, I'm saying something, Anna?
Just I'm asking the team. So if you have any doubt, you can ask. That way, we will we will clear that. It's understandable.
Yeah, okay. Okay, let's move to the next part of the asynchronous process. So till now what we learn is we saw triggers. What it does, it executes all in a synchronous way. But if we have any like a related process which is not that important to execute in right now, we can have it in a asynchronous way or a parallel way, which will run in its context. Then we are using future method. But with the future method we saw where we have a limitation, we can only schedule one future method from trigger, and from that we can't call another future method, which is limitations. To solve this limitations, we have a queuable apex which we can call from trigger. If we call one queuable method from trigger, from that queuable you can call another one. So in normal complex processes, like when opportunity is executed, then we are creating order. Once the order is created, we are creating contract, and then we are sending that contract for sign. So there are so many business processes where we follow these steps. Once this is executed, then this should execute, then this should execute. But we should not wait until that entire process is completed whenever the opportunity is executed, because we will hit the time limit of the execution. So we put that all the things in a asynchronous way so that our record will get saved, and after the record is saved, our another processes will run in parallel with its own context. Okay, so now we saw this queuable thing which we can call from one another. But what do you see? Anyone? If you see, what is the issue with this? just using the queuable. Or okay, I'll check. So the thing here is we can't handle bulk data. So you can see here we have account IDs, but let's say we want to send this data to the third party system. So at once we can say we have some limits, right? Whatever is 1 MB, 2 MB based on whatever things we have. So that much data only we can pass it in a one call, right? So let's say I have 1 billion accounts which got updated, and we need to send all this data to the third party system. Then we can't simply use the normal triggers and then send this data to the third party system via this queuable things. It is not a recommended approach because it will take so much time and we will come across the governor limits. So to solve this issue, Salesforce comes up with another asynchronous type, which is batch apex. So batch apex is specially designed for handle bulk data. So whatever data cleansing activities or like data migration we do most of the systems, when we migrate to another migrate from another system to Salesforce, we bring a lot of data, and then once we are bringing that data we need to cleanse that data, we need to perform complex calculate data. So in these scenarios we can't rely on this normal triggers and this future method QA thing. So we need something called as batch, which will take and it will process, then it will take another chunk of data and then it will process. Like that it can process till millions of data. So if we have a large volume of data, we need something called as batch apex to process that entire data. Okay, so we'll quickly go and see one example of batch class. So what we will do, we will create one class called batch object contact names. Okay, so this is a scenario where let's say if we have account and related contacts, right? Simple one. So whenever there is a new contact IDs, contact is added associated with that account, we want to create we want all the contacts of that account to store on an account as a comma separated names. So let's say I have an account called Acme and I have two contacts related to that account. Then I want to store whatever is the name of that contact, two contacts. I want that names to be stored on the account description field as a comma separated. So first contact name comma second contact name, like that I want to update it on a account. So whenever new contact is inserted or updated or deleted on that thing, we can have a method in the trigger which we will calculate that values and it which will update the account, right? But let's say we implemented this process today and we have billions of accounts existing already in our org. So whatever automation we write, it will fix the whatever data which is being updated after we have implemented this process, right? So now onwards, if I update any contact, delete any contact, that calculations will trigger from contact trigger and it will update that data on account. But whatever old data we have, that old data we need to update it, right? So to update that bulk old data, we have something called as batch class. So we will see an example of batch class, how we will update this data in our system. Okay, so let's say we have public without sharing batch class. So now we will implement the batchable context, which is database.batchable, and we have it on contact, or we'll put a subject. So this class, this is a definition of the class. Now every batch class should at least 3 methods. You can see the error here as well. Must implement this method. So there are 3 methods which at least we want. What is the first one? First one is start. So there should be a start method which with the parameter as batchable context. So what we will do, we'll create one start method. So this is a start. And this is the context. Now this method will return the database.query locator. So this will be the return type of this method, and this method will return a query. The database.query get query we will use. Okay, so this is the first method, which we should have a start method. What this does is it just queries whatever data we need to process. And then second method we need is execute. Public void. This method doesn't return anything. Execute, and this method takes the parameter which is passed from here, which is database query locator, and it handles in a batchable context. So the parameter here it will be database dot batchable context. So this, what is this batchable context? It will maintain whatever the query we have written. Let's say we got 1 million records from this query, and now we are executing it. So this execute method will process 200 records at a time. So from this 12 million records, it will take first 200 records, then it will take next 200, next 200, next 200. Like that it will process in a batch, and it will be a separate transaction. So we will not come across the governor limits. So to maintain that context, we are using this batchable context as a variable. Okay, so this is context, and we will pass a scope. Now scope will be what type of data we are passing inside this. So this we are querying data is a list of contact. So for now we'll put it on account level. So we'll pass a list of account to this method, which will act as a scope. So this method will query all accounts, and from that every time it will pass 200 records, and in this scope variable always there will be that 200 records. Now with this batch class, 200 is a standard size which processes, but we can define maximum is 200. So if you want to put less size, like if we have so many complex processes, and even if we just update 200 accounts at a time, we are hitting the governor limits, then we can use 50 or one record edit, whatever is based on our complex is there on our processes. Based on that, we can define the size, which is the number of records to process in one transaction. We can define that while scheduling this job or triggering this job. So this is an execute method, and the third method is finish method. This also takes the same parameters. This also doesn't return anything, public void finish. So when this finish method is executed, so in the batch, once we trigger the batch, what it will do, it will run the start method, it will query all data which needs to be processed, and this execute method, it will process that data one by one, like 200, 200, 200, and once all the execution is completed, then it will come to the finish method, and at the end this finish method will execute. So normally in this finish method, what we put is like sending an email to the uh, person who has scheduled the batch, like send email, this batch is completed. Or what happens is, normally if we are processing so much data, then sometimes what happens, some of the records might get failed due to some reason, right? So we can handle that data here, try in try catch, and whichever IDs got failed, what was their error, we can uh, keep that data, and at the end we can create a record, or we can send that information via email to the user that these are the record IDs which got failed. Or what we can do is we can create a log record in the system that okay, these are the records which got failed, so that in next time we will be knowing that which all records got updated and which all got failed. So that kind of operations we put it in a finish method. So till now, is it clear? Any questions till now? Why we are using batch class, and what are these three methods? Okay. What is the error now? Let's try to save it. Must implement database dot execute batchable context and then list of. Oh, here we have put the subject, so we'll put that account here. Public class name, which implements database dot batchable accounts. This looks good. Okay, we'll see what is the error later on with this line. Okay, so we have the start method, execute method, and finish method. Now, in our example, what was it? Whenever an contact is added, updated, or deleted on the account, we need to populate the data on the account. So now we have this scope which handles all accounts. Now inside this, let's say first two, so what we will do, for account ACC, and we will loop through this variable, which is a scope which has 200 accounts. Now we'll loop through this, and what we will do, we will get all the list of contacts for this uh, account, and we will store that data in the uh, account record. So again, we'll do same thing. We'll do a query. So we use list of accounts, and then inside that we'll query select ID, comma, we'll do nested query. ID, comma, name from contacts from account where ID in the scope. So now we have queried all the accounts as well as the related contacts of that account. And now here we will define a variable for this, records to process. So these are account records which we will be processing. Set of string which will be contact names, new set of string, and inside this what we will store, we'll add the contact first name and contact con dot first name plus, we'll add a space here, and then con dot last name. So yeah, so now we have all the names set. Now we want to join them as a comma separated value so that we can store them in a string in a description field. So what we will do, after these names are stored in the list, in this account we will do account dot description is equal to this names join it. So we have a string class which has a method which takes the first parameter as a list or a set of values, which is string, and then it takes the center, which is a delimiter, which we need to join in between the values. So we'll use this comma, and It's not showing accounts. We'll just refresh the page. Okay. Now in BAC, so it's it's a spelling mistake was there. Okay, and contact doesn't exist. It's contacts.
What is the error throwing?
Contact doesn't exist. Variable does not exist. So contacts, it should exist in this one. It's not suggesting. Anything I'm missing, Anand? What you can see? This tables and some missing first name, last name. Capitals was not working. I guess it's the list of accounts, certain scope, and then yeah, okay. We need to look at an account. Sorry, my bad. I was directly trying to access it from the list. So this account we need to get the contacts, not all contacts from this main query. Yeah, I did know. So this was about the batch apex. This is the third type in the asynchronous sync. Update the bulk amount of data, and we can process them in a chunks, even if we want to process it in a small chunks like 1, 2, 5, 10 till 200. Process this records in bulk, and once it is executed in the finish method, we can send some confirmation, or normally we use this for sending email confirmations, or if any occurs in these executions, we create log records for the same in the finish method. Whatever failures are there, we can reprocess that failures. Some of the best practices which we can use in this start method is we can make this batch as more dynamic using some of the variables as a constructor in here, which is for example, we can pass a query itself. So whatever query we have here, so we could just create a public variable called query, and then here we'll use public string query will use, and in here we can pass string as a this query as a string we can pass, and inside the controller we can assign this to this query. So while calling itself, we can make it generic, so that even if I pass this query for account, I can put any filters. Let's say I want to just update last 5-year accounts or last 2-year accounts. So that kind of filters I can put it. Along with that, let's say with the previous batch, we have got some failures. Now we have that set of IDs. Let's say 500 records got failed, and I have a list of 500 records which got stored in the record. We can only run the batch for specific records. In that case, I can't use any specific filters on the query level, right? Like last created date or any failure conditions are not there. So in that case, what we can put as like set of IDs, we can take failed IDs. So this as a parameter we can take, and then we can pass as a filter to this. So here we can just use like if this failed IDs dot size is greater than 0, or what you can say is, or you can use fail IDs not equal to null. So if this is provided along with the constructor, you can just simply use whatever query we have, and then you can assign that variable. So if there is already and or condition is there, we can just along with that add like where condition we can add I in, then you can use this, and then plus you can do, and you can pass this failed IDs as well. So this kind of manipulations you can do, so you can make your batch class so that in failures also you will be able to trigger this batch with the just failure IDs, or also if you want to put some custom filters along with this, you can take that filter. If you want to make this batch more generic, like it should work for account as well as opportunities. So let's say normally I'm taking this example for contact, I need to put this comma separated values on the account level for contact teams. So same way on we have account teams, we have opportunity teams, we have contact teams. So let's say all that teams, whatever records associated with that contact for contact team, if you want to roll up that names as a comma separated value on the contact level, then you can use this for contact. So instead of using account here, you can just use s object, and this in this query itself, so you are passing like select id from account. Instead of that, you just pass this query as select id from contact, and it will run for the contact directly. And based on that, here instead of using account, you can use object, and then typecast these values to that whichever object we have got, and based on that we can process, make this class as generic, so that it will work for the different processes as well. You don't need to create a separate class for multiple processes if they are similar. So like that, we can use the benefit of using batch classes. Obviously we can process bulk amount of data. Okay, so this was the third type of asynchronous apex we saw. So how to call this? The way to call this is, we have something called data execute. Batch, and which takes this instance, and here is a second parameter which we can define a size. So by default it's 200. You could put like whatever, 10, 15, 100, whatever size you can put. And this is the line which will schedule this job. It will trigger this job, and it will execute whatever things we have. Now here with this we are passing the string query. So this string query we can pass it in a context here itself, like this: select id from account, and it will work for all accounts. So if you want to just put, use it for last 10 years, then you can create a date last n years, something like this, last 10 something. So something like that, you can put the filters last 10 years records only we need to consider. And this second part you could keep it, pass it as null, as you're not passing it. So like that you can call this thing. So this was the third part of asynchronous apex. So and are we taking break now, or should we continue?
Yeah, we'll have a break for 15 minutes and we can rejoin. By 11:35 we can rejoin.